Have you ever heard a sound in the dead of night that made your skin crawl, but you couldn't explain it? Or a melody? A soft whisper when you're home alone? A floorboard creaking in an empty hallway? In the Eastern Hills, the elders tell a story. It is about a dark, forgotten path. They call it the Silent Road. They say if you walk it after midnight, you might hear a flute song so beautiful it makes you want to cry. But they also offer a warning, one that has kept generations of children safe in their beds. They say, whatever you do, no matter how tempting, do not whistle back. Sit back, turn off your lights, and let me tell you the terrifying story of Chidi, the hunter, who thought he was stronger than the dark.
Our story begins on the eve of a cold, dry harmattan season. In the village, the people had gathered around a roaring fire to escape the biting wind. Among them sat Elder Oji, a man whose face was etched with the lines of 100 ancient stories. Tonight is a night of wandering spirits, Oji warned the young men, his voice trembling slightly. The wind carries voices. If any of you hunt near the Eastern Valley tonight, make sure you are home before the moon reaches its peak, and stay far away from the Silent Road. The flute player is hungry. Most of the young men nodded in respectful silence, but not Chidi. Chidi was the village's most skilled young hunter. He was strong, fast, and boastful. He possessed a heart of iron, or so he believed. Chidi let out a loud, mocking laugh that cut through the crackle of the fire. "Elder Oji," Chidi scoffed, tossing a piece of wood into the flames. "You frighten these boys with children's tales so you can keep the best hunting grounds for yourself. Shadows and flutes do not bleed. Why should a man with an iron spear fear a tune in the wind? Pride goes before a fall, young one." Elder Oji replied softly, his dark eyes reflecting the firelight. "The things on that road do not hunt with spears. They hunt with your own foolishness." Ignoring the warning, Chidi slung his quiver over his shoulder, grabbed his heavy iron spear, and marched into the dark forest, determined to prove that fear was nothing but a disease of the weak. Hours passed. The night grew progressively colder, the kind of deep, biting cold that seeps straight into your bones. Despite Chidi's skill, the forest was strangely dead. No bushmeat rustled in the undergrowth. No owls hooted. Even the crickets had gone completely silent. By the time the moon had shrunk to a sharp, silver crescent directly overhead, Chidi realized he was lost. His hands were numb, and his breath hung in the air like thick white smoke. To get home before the sun rose, he had only one choice. He had to take the shortcut. He had to cross the Silent Road. As Chidi's bare feet stepped onto the narrow, dusty path, a thick, unnatural gray fog began to roll in. It didn't drift, it crawled. It clung tightly to his ankles, swirling around his legs like cold, invisible fingers. The canopy of towering trees above him was so dense that it completely blocked out the starlight, leaving him in a suffocating pitch-black tunnel. Then, the silence of the road was shattered. "Fey, Flo, Fee!" Chidi stopped dead in his tracks. It was the sound of a flute. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, vibrating with a deep, sorrowful ache. It seemed to drift through the foggy trees, echoing from the left, then the right, then directly behind his head. "Who goes there?" Chidi demanded, raising his spear, his voice shaking just a fraction. The forest did not answer. Only the hypnotic, sorrowful song kept playing, pulling him deeper into a trance. Instead of running, Chidi's pride flared up. He remembered the elder's warnings, and a dark, arrogant urge overtook him. He wanted to prove, once and for all, that he was master of these woods. Chidi puckered his cold lips. He drew in a deep breath of the freezing air, and he whistled the exact haunting melody right back into the darkness. Instantly, the music stopped. The silence that followed was heavy and absolute. The wind died. Chidi could hear nothing but the frantic, heavy thudding of his own heart. Thump, thump, thump. Then the bushes directly ahead of him parted. Out of the fog stepped a figure. It looked like a man, but it was far too tall. Its limbs were impossibly long, thin, and crooked, resembling the dry, charred branches of a burnt tree. It wore a tattered ash-gray cloak that dragged in the dirt. Beneath its deep hood, there was only pitch-black emptiness. No eyes, no nose, no skin. In its skeletal gray hands, the creature held a flute. But as Chidi looked closer, his blood ran cold. The flute wasn't made of wood. It was carved from a pristine, polished human collarbone. "Stand back," Chidi roared, thrusting his spear forward. The creature did not speak. It slowly raised the bone flute to the void beneath its hood and began to play. But this was no longer a sad melody. It was a chaotic, screeching, terrifying tune that vibrated through Chidi's teeth. Chidi tried to charge, but his legs refused to move. A freezing numbness climbed up from the soles of his feet, locking his joints in place. He was completely paralyzed, frozen like a statue on the dirt path. He tried to scream for help, but his throat felt as though it were filled with dry sand. Under the dim moonlight, the creature's shadow began to stretch across the path. It crawled forward like a dark, living liquid, slithering over the dusty ground until it finally touched Chidi's feet. A jolt of pure, agonizing pain shot up Chidi's spine. In absolute horror, Chidi watched as his own shadow began to peel itself off the ground. It didn't follow his body's movements. Instead, his shadow stood up on its own, a dark, hollow silhouette standing right next to him. The tall figure stopped playing and lowered the flute. In a voice that sounded like dry leaves scraping against a tombstone, it whispered, "You answered my song. Now, your shadow belongs to the forest, and soon you will join it." The creature turned, and as it drifted back into the thick, swirling fog, Chidi's stolen shadow followed right behind it, melting away into the dark. The moment the creature vanished, the paralysis broke. Chidi collapsed into the dirt, gasping for air, tears of terror streaming down his face. He scrambled to his feet, threw away his spear, and ran. He ran blindly through the briars and branches, screaming, until he burst through the door of his hut and locked it behind him. Chidi survived the night, but the hunter who left that evening never truly returned. The next morning, when Chidi stepped out into the bright midday sun, the villagers gasped and backed away in horror, while the huts, the trees, and the goats all cast dark, sharp shadows on the ground. Chidi cast absolutely nothing. The dirt beneath his feet was completely bright. Over the coming weeks, Chidi wasted away. He became pale, thin, and hollow-eyed. He stopped eating. He stopped speaking. He was a shell of a man, as if his very soul was being drained through the space where his shadow used to be. Exactly 1 month after that fateful night, Chidi woke up at midnight. His eyes were wide, staring blankly at the wall. He stood up, unlocked his door, and walked out into the cold night. The villagers say as he walked into the forest, they could hear a faint, beautiful bone flute playing in the distance, welcoming him home. He was never seen again. Lower your voice to a whisper. Look directly into the lens. So, my friends, the next time you're walking home late at night and you hear a beautiful, lonely melody drifting through the trees. Keep your eyes on the ground, check your shadow, and whatever you do, do not whistle back. If you survived this story, write the word shadow in the comments section so I know you made it to the end. Hit that subscribe button for more tales from the dark, and sleep with one eye open tonight. See you in the next story, if you're still here.